James Richardson was a complete disaster as a wedding photographer. Every shoot ended the same way: angry couples, refund demands, endless complaints. His photos were distant, unfocused, utterly devoid of romance. His career had already collapsed, and today was set to be his final chance. At least, until the assassin's finger hovered 2 seconds away from pulling the trigger inside the wedding hall when James stopped him. 300 guests froze in disbelief. How had this incompetent photographer spotted the faint metallic glint of a rifle barrel almost a kilometer away? And more importantly, why had he reacted with such absolute certainty? For 10 years, James had done the same job without a single genuine success. Each wedding shoot meant another disappointment. Brides asked for romantic close-ups, he delivered aerial shots. Families expected tender details, he returned cold panoramas. Grooms wanted laughter and intimacy. He gave them distance and blur. These patterns drove his clients insane. Every wedding album looked the same. High angles, distant frames, sterile compositions. The bride's tears of joy were missing. The groom's loving glances uncaptured. Family's emotions forever blurred. His colleagues mocked him relentlessly. Photography studios used his work as cautionary tales. On social media, his pictures appeared in wedding photography disasters compilations. Everyone kept asking the same question: why on earth had this man ever decided to become a photographer? Sometimes James asked himself the same thing. Each morning in the mirror he wondered, why couldn't he get close? Why did intimacy paralyze him? Whenever he aimed his lens at couples, an odd unease gripped him, as if stepping in too close meant entering dangerous territory. Nobody knew the origin of his strange behavior, not even James. He never spoke about it, because he couldn't explain it. All he knew was that distance made him feel safe. High vantage points, open fields, visible exits, those were his comfort zones. As if his subconscious expected a threat to appear at any moment. Nights offered no rest. Sleep broke into fragments of sweat-drenched nightmares. Vague silhouettes, distant targets, crosshairs. The images vanished with morning, but the unease lingered. Business was collapsing. In 6 months, he had shot only 3 weddings, each one ending with a refund. His bank account held just a few £1,000s. Rent, bills, equipment loans, everything piled up. His landlord was already threatening a price hike. His gear was no better. The camera was years outdated, lenses scratched, tripod unstable. He couldn't afford replacements. He survived on second-hand scraps gathered from flea markets. The only reliable equipment left were his telephoto lenses. Always the telephotos. Saturday morning arrived with its usual dread. Today's wedding might be his final chance. Sarah and Michael had hired him through a friend's recommendation. Another failure, and his photography career would be over. He'd have to look for another life entirely. His hands shook while preparing. Telephoto lens, tripod, flash kit, all configured for long-range shooting. His close-up lenses remained untouched, dust collecting in their boxes like relics from a past life. The wedding venue was a luxury hotel overlooking the Thames. Perfect scenery, lavish decoration, a joyful couple. Ideal conditions for James, ideal for observation from afar. He claimed a spot near the hall entrance, carving out space at the back. From there he could see everything. But the details he noticed weren't just floral arches in candlelight. His eyes mapped out camera angles, security guard positions, emergency exits. He didn't know why his brain locked onto these things. It felt like an autopilot, analysis mode. Another trait his clients had always found strange. As guests began to arrive, James studied them. Their walking patterns, the way they sat, how they scanned the room. He unconsciously logged everything. While normal photographers hunted for shots, James was reading people, cataloging behavior. When the ceremony started, he raised his lens. The same routine. Elevated angle, wide perspective, distant zoom. The couple appeared sharp but lifeless, stripped of intimacy. Each frame echoed with the same cold detachment. Then his eyes flicked, unbidden, to the rooftop of the office building across from the hotel. Movement. Subtle, but abnormal. No ordinary guest would have noticed. But James's eyes were not ordinary. He caught the metallic glint. He recognized the calculated shift, the threatening stance, and in an instant, alarm screamed through every nerve in his body. The glint of metal ignited a surge of adrenaline through James's body. He dropped his camera instantly, eyes locking on the rooftop across the street. His instincts kicked in, performing rapid mental calculations. Distance roughly 800 meters, minimal wind, target angle 30 degrees. He had no idea why his brain worked this way, but it did. The figure atop the roof moved methodically. Tripod extended, rifle positioned, scope adjusted. James recognized each motion instinctively. Every step, every small action seemed predictable. But why? How could he know these details? Meanwhile, the wedding hall continued as normal. Guests smiled and exchanged vows, completely oblivious. James's heart pounded, his palms slick with sweat. Normal photographers couldn't see what he saw, but he could. Every subtle twitch of the shooter's body was visible. Every calculated shift in posture. The rifle was turning. The assassin had locked onto his target. James adjusted his zoom to the maximum, eyes narrowing. This was a professional. Movements precise, stance perfect, equipment expensive and meticulously arranged. The moment demanded a decision. He could warn someone, call for help, spark chaos, but all of it would be too late. 1 second and lives would be lost. Direct intervention was the only option. But how could an unarmed photographer confront a trained sniper hundreds of meters away? He scanned the hall and surroundings, rooftop access routes, time needed, obstacles. Every calculation ran automatically. It was tactical thinking, almost military. No ordinary civilian could see this. And James felt the eerie certainty of someone with prior training. The sniper's final setup was underway. Scope adjusted, breathing controlled, trigger finger poised. James understood it perfectly. Heartbeat synchronization, breath regulation, squeeze sequence terms he hadn't consciously thought of in years suddenly came alive. Time was bleeding fast. James dropped his camera and ran. Guests turned, confused at the sight of a photographer sprinting unnaturally through the hall. Their murmurs were irrelevant. Panic could wait, he had a mission. Stairs became his pathway. 2 steps at a time, then 3. Adrenaline compensated for his average fitness. Floors passed in a blur, each bringing him closer to the roof. Breath came in short bursts, but he didn't slow. Every stride was instinctive, calculated. Security attempted to stop him. No civilians were allowed upstairs. James shouted about the sniper, but his warnings fell on skeptical ears. They assumed overreaction. Precious seconds slipped away. Meanwhile, the sniper completed final calculations. Target acquired, distance verified, wind compensated. James felt the knowledge stir inside him, terms he should never have known. Memories, long locked away, clawed their way to the surface. Reaching the top floor, James faced the locked metal door. Emergency exit. Alarm system engaged. With force, he pushed it open. The shrill alarm echoed through the building, but time no longer mattered. He had reached the critical stage. Stepping onto the rooftop, the vast panorama of London stretched before him. There was no time to admire the view. The assassin was ready, scope fixed, finger resting on the trigger. James had no weapon, no conventional means to intervene from this distance. But he had an idea. Distraction. Shouts tore from his throat, arms waving, body fully visible. It worked. The sniper swiveled, abandoning the hall momentarily to examine this unexpected intruder. Seconds stretched into precious time for potential victims, yet this was a professional. The shooter's attention shifted to James with suspicion. Who was this unpredictable variable? Through the scope, 2 men now silently assessed one another, each trained, each calculating. And then James's mind cleared. Suppressed memories surged sniper school, military drills, classified operations. Had he once walked the same deadly path as this rooftop figure? Where had this skill set come from? As suppressed memories surged, James felt his head spin. Fragmented images flashed, desert camouflage, scope reticles, wind meters, intricate target calculations. Where had this knowledge come from? These were not skills a normal photographer could possess. The sniper atop the opposite rooftop ceased observing James and refocused on the wedding hall. Timing had become critical. The ceremony approached its climax. The assassin's ideal shooting window was narrowing. Every movement was precise, deliberate, professional. Panic washed over James. He needed to act, now. But the distance between rooftops was too great. Physical intervention was impossible. Then an idea crystallized. Counter-sniper operations. How were they conducted? He had glimpsed tactical manuals years ago, and instinct now summoned them to mind. Memory flashes accelerated. Training scenarios, military drills, classified exercises. He had been the sniper before, and now, instinctively, he became the counter-sniper. This role reversal was uncanny. Déjà vu collided with present reality. Past and current crises intertwined. A deadly chess match unfolded across the rooftops of London. Two highly skilled operators analyzed each other tactically. James's disadvantage was lack of weaponry. His advantage, knowledge of terrain and elevation. Each move calculated, each possibility weighed. The sniper adjusted for final breath control, heartbeat regulation, trigger positioning, precise target lock confirmation. All of it came alive in James's mind. Muscle memory flowed, drawing invisible patterns, reconstructing procedures he had long forgotten. When the critical moment arrived, James acted. He climbed to the edge of the rooftop, shouting warnings toward the hall below. His voice may not carry, but the attempt was worth it. He could not risk waiting. The action drew the sniper's attention immediately. Irritation flared. An unexpected variable disrupted mission parameters. The assassin now reassessed James, measuring potential threat. Could this civilian-appearing figure possess tactical expertise? Inside the hall, oblivious guests continued the ceremony. Laughter, vows, the exchanging of rings. Life carried on against the backdrop of impending disaster. The deadly game above contrasted sharply with the joy below. James's desperate shouts began producing effects. A few guests craned their necks, spotting unusual movement outside the windows. Confusion crept in. Full panic had yet to erupt, but the first cracks of awareness appeared. At this moment, the audience following James's story reaches a critical point. Who is he really? Where does this tactical mastery originate? If your pulse is racing, remember to hit the like button and share which city you're watching from in the comments. The sniper faced a decision. Eliminate the primary target or neutralize the interfering factor. Professional assessment dictated evaluating James's threat level. Who was this observant, reactive, unknown element challenging his mission? Vertigo struck James as he balanced on the rooftop edge. Heights had always unnerved him, but in moments of crisis, instinct overruled fear. Survival demanded focus over phobia. Fragments of memory sharpened. Military exercises, sniper school, specialized operations confirmation emerged. He had been a long-range specialist. Suppressed identity was resurfacing, connecting professional past to civilian present. The sniper shifted his scope to James. Crosshairs centered, distance, wind, and trajectory calculations performed subconsciously by both men. James recognized the process. He had executed identical calculations in his former life. Revelation struck. Memories unlocked fully. Military service, special operations, classified missions, sniper specialization. He was the marksman who had retired a decade ago, whose identity had been suppressed by trauma, masked by a civilian life. Adapting to civilian life had been arduous. Close-range photography replaced long-range precision, yet telephoto lenses mirrored his former sniper scopes subconsciously. His comfort zone, once tactical, now civilianized. Past expertise collided with present crisis. Dormant skills reactivated. Professional instincts began dominating civilian restraint. Transformation was inevitable. While the sniper's finger applied trigger pressure, James executed a counter-sniper maneuver. Using a reflective surface, he directed sunlight into the opponent's scope. Blinding, disorienting, last-resort tactic, the only option left. Success was uncertain, but he had no alternatives. Every second counted. Lives hung in the balance. James had no choice but to act decisively, relying on instincts long buried but now fully awakened. The sunlight reflection maneuver partially succeeded. The rooftop assassin recoiled, momentarily blinded, his head snapping from the scope. Those precious seconds created an action window for James. Instincts honed by years of professional training surged. The civilian photographer facade slipped. The dormant military specialist emerged fully. James mapped a precise descent from the rooftop. Fire escape routes, structural weaknesses, access points, all analyzed automatically. Years of suppressed tactical training now engaged seamlessly, every neural pathway firing in unison. When the sniper regained vision, he realized James's position had vanished. Target reacquisition became imperative. Every second lost now carried deadly weight. For a professional assassin, this was unacceptable. Inside the building, James moved swiftly. Emergency stairs his path. Alternate routes, pre-planned, guided him. Ground-level approach. Vertical infiltration, the urban warfare tactics drilled into him years ago now directed every motion. Hotel staff and guests began noticing his unusual movements. Nothing like a normal photographer. Each step precise, each turn calculated. Confusion rippled through onlookers as military precision replaced civilian mannerisms. The sniper refocused on the hall, timing the ceremony's climax. The ideal shooting window dwindled. Primary mission target elimination remained paramount. All other factors became secondary. At street level, James began his approach to the target building. Distance, approach angle, building entry points, tactical planning executed instinctively. Muscle memory, long dormant, reactivated fully. Bypassing security demanded alternative routes. Service doors, maintenance access, emergency ladders. Years of experience in evaluating building layouts now applied effortlessly. Familiarity from past operations guided him. He avoided elevators. Speed and stealth required balance. Stair ascent demanded control and precision. Mental countdowns synchronized with heartbeat. Time pressure maximized. Floor by floor, he climbed, drawing nearer to the sniper's location. Adrenaline surged. Focus sharpened. Professional mode fully activated. Civilian identity entirely suppressed. Reaching roof access, final mental checks completed. Approach strategy, neutralization options, extraction paths. The tactical plan now fully internalized. Training, once dormant, found immediate application. Pushing open the roof door slowly, he confirmed the sniper's position. High-end gear, expert posture, unmistakable experience. The threat level demanded utmost caution. Peripheral awareness alerted the sniper. Professionals never miss secondary movements while monitoring primary targets. Every step James took risked detection. At this pivotal moment, James had to act decisively. Stealth or confrontation? Opponent reaction time evaluated instinctively. Every move measured. Split. Second judgment critical. Suppressed memories crystallized. Military service. Special ops background. Sniper specialization. Classified missions. Identity crisis resolved. True self emerged. Past and present fused seamlessly. Now, suspense peaked. Viewers must wonder, will James neutralize the threat? Will civilians be endangered? The tension mounted. Engage fully like comment, share your city of viewing. Professional instinct, directed seeking tactical advantage, elevation, cover, approach lines. Neural level calculations operated automatically. Dormant skills awakened. Fully functional. The sniper began final trigger sequence. Breath control, heartbeat regulation, finger pressure. Any interference now risked mission failure. Margin for error 0. James closed distance using silent approach. Footstep control, breathing synchronization, movement precision, infiltration skills in full deployment. Remaining undetected was critical. As the gap closed, timing calculations refined. Intervention window before trigger squeeze minimal. Precision, absolute necessity. Error margin non-existent. At this defining instant, James's true identity would emerge. Civilian photographer mask would drop. Professional operator revealed. Transformation completed. Past identity reclaimed. Final confrontation inevitable. When the final moment arrived, James acted with lightning precision. Professional training had fully engaged. His civilian identity completely overridden. Using a silent approach technique, he positioned himself behind the assassin. Years of suppressed expertise now surged into full activation life-or-death instincts, guiding every movement. As the assassin prepared to squeeze the trigger, James executed a decisive intervention. Combat skills honed over years kicked in flawlessly. He disarmed the sniper, secured the weapon, and neutralized the threat. Every motion was executed perfectly. Muscle memory, once dormant, now functioned with absolute precision. During the neutralization, the assassin recognized James's skill instantly. He understood this was no amateur civilian. Resistance would be futile. Expert-to-expert acknowledgement passed silently between them. A mutual recognition of mastery. After this critical moment, James entered the final stage of his transformation. The suppressed military identity had fully emerged. The civilian photographer persona receded completely, eclipsed by the trained specialist. True self-revelation was complete. Below, the wedding guests remained blissfully unaware. Joyful celebration continued, as if nothing had occurred. Thanks to James, disaster had been averted. Innocent lives were preserved, and silent heroism had been accomplished. Police sirens approached. The authorities alerted. James prepared for professional handover, preserving all evidence. His posture exuded readiness, cooperation, and control protocols ingrained from his past operations. Even in custody, the assassin displayed respect. Mutual recognition of professional competence transformed hostility into acknowledgement. The adversarial relationship subtly shifted to one of professional courtesy. Media attention became inevitable. Headlines would hail the heroic photographer. But James avoided publicity. Maintaining a low profile was instinctive, protective of his suppressed identity and professional legacy. Investigations followed. Background checks, classified operations reviews, and security clearance verifications exposed James's past. Strategic disclosure became critical. Carefully managing what was revealed ensured both security and personal safety. In that transformative moment, James experienced a profound paradigm shift. He recognized that his civilian photographer identity was a construct. His true calling lay in military and security work. A career redirection appeared inevitable, guided by purpose rather than convenience. Photography equipment now carried new meaning. Telephoto lenses weren't merely tools, they mirrored his comfort with distance, a civilianized echo of former sniper optics. At a subconscious level, they symbolized preservation of his professional identity. Guests gradually became aware of the incident. Initial confusion gave way to gratitude. Social acknowledgement of his heroism was expressed, though James accepted it with restraint. Professional ethics differed from civilian reward systems, and mission satisfaction held greater weight than applause. For viewers following this story, the resolution phase had begun. James's identity mystery was clarified, the threat neutralized, and innocent lives saved. If these developments inspired you, hit like and share your thoughts in the comments. Hotel management expressed sincere gratitude, offering compensation, which James declined. Mission fulfillment and ethical duty outweighed monetary reward. Professional priorities operated under different codes than civilian commerce. Sarah and Michael, the wedding couple, extended heartfelt thanks. Life-saving actions had transformed their perception of James. He was no longer just a photographer, he had become their savior. In the days following, James confronted major life decisions. Continue the photography business? Return to military security sectors? Integration of dual identities required intense psychological work. Suppressed trauma began resurfacing. Professional counseling became necessary. PTSD symptoms were identified and required careful management. Mental health support systems were critical to long-term recovery. Memory recovery continued gradually. Suppressed experiences emerged into consciousness, demanding integration. Identity reconstruction became a prolonged psychological journey, with professional support essential. Career transition planning commenced. Opportunities in military contracting, private security, and law enforcement consulting were evaluated. His skill set now represented invaluable assets in civilian applications. Photography became a personal pursuit rather than a professional career. Distance photography now carried clear meaning. Subconscious mechanisms once protecting him in civilian life were fully understood. In final analysis, James had undergone a life-altering transformation. Recovery of suppressed identity, reactivation of professional skills, and civilian-to-operator transition marked major personal growth milestones. This story's conclusion demonstrates that extraordinary potential lies dormant within ordinary individuals. In moments of crisis, hidden depths can emerge, revealing capabilities that may have seemed unimaginable. If this inspiring story resonated, remember to subscribe. More tales of real-life heroes, ordinary people with extraordinary abilities await. Their stories deserve to be told.